Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine, and we've got a couple of people. Brunk just jumped in. Hey, Brunk, how you doing?
All right, moose and squirrel.
I just love that. Oh, your graphic is just great. Okay, enough. You know, I so badly want to hear Bullwinkle the Moose as a ring announcer in a boxing match on HBO. It would just be so.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I know that'd be.
Let's get ready to rumble.
The funnier one, actually, with that one, the funnier one would be if he was a TSA agent.
No, it's in the red corner, pulling a rabbit out of his hat.
Again.
All right.
That trick never works.
We've got Brian, we've got Rick, we've got Roxanne, and we've got you. Thanks for joining us on this.
I got you, baby.
I'm kind of hurt, you know.
Why?
I'm kind of hurt because I hate it when major sporting events are lost on obvious miscalls. I can't stand it. And basically the second to last play in the Virginia Auburn game, where a guy dribbled off his foot and stopped, picked up the ball, and then dribbled it again. I mean, shit. I remember when I was a kid playing, playground basketball in Canton, Ohio. And there was a kid I went to grade school with, and went to high school with. His name was Steve Girardo. And Steve was one of those guys whose voice didn't get lower until he was kind of older, like 46. No. No. When he was in grade school, he had this, high voice. And, man, if you so much as committed any offense on the basketball court, Steve Girardo would call it out on you, man. I mean, he was like a mobile official. He was also a good basketball player. He started for our high school team, the women's team, but he started, and it was so. Yeah, if that would have happened, if I'd have been dribbling behind my back and kicked it off the back of my heel, picked it up and dribbled, he'd got double dribble. He said everything 3 times. Everything he said, fuck me, big boy, fuck me, big boy, fuck me, big boy. 3 times. Everything he said. Couldn't get away with nothing on it. But here, with all the cameras glaring on the most important game of these two schools, recent histories, how could they miss it?
Now, Tommy Heinsohn would have spotted it, so let's hear what he would have to say.
Tommy Heinsohn. All right. First of all, it's a bad idea for a white man to be dribbling the ball behind his back. Let me tell you about Bob Cousy. Bob Cousy was the best dribbler I've ever seen in the game. You never saw him go behind his back and between it. That was Pistol Pete Maravich stuff. That wasn't Bob Cousy, the pure ball handler. All right? Actually, there was a guy who used to sit in section 16 who was a pure ball handler, and they threw him out of the game. The arena couldn't stand it. At Boston Garden, he was handling his balls all the time. So the mistake is white people should not dribble the ball behind their back. Yeah, that's what Tommy Heinsohn would say. It was terrible. And you could see the confused Auburn player looking up at the shot clock. Should I foul him or shouldn't I foul him? He had that moment of deer in the headlights uncertainty, because also in the back of his mind, it's like, double dribble, double dribble, double dribble. And they didn't call it. And that resulted in ball game. Now, in the aftermath of this, there's 2 things. Auburn coach Bruce Pearl says, get over it. The biggest point I want to make, and I'm sincere in this, I'm not just saying this because it's politically the right thing to say. There is human error involved in the game. Kids make mistakes. Coaches make mistakes. Officials make mistakes. Universities make mistakes by illegally recruiting and exploiting players. Lots of people make mistakes. I took it up the ass last night with a male hooker. We all make mistakes. That's part of the game. Get over it, he said.
Looks like I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue.
Exactly right. Thank you, Lloyd Bridges. I appreciate that. Get over it. And that's a harsh message to a kid who doesn't have an NBA career in front of him. That, there are a lot of people who won national championship games who weren't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or who didn't go on to have these magnificent NBA careers. There are some guys who are just the guy like from NC State. What was his last name? Lorenzo Charles.
Charles. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a memory that he will hold with him the rest of his life, And to take that away from somebody because you missed a call, that's not acceptable, especially something that was going to be so scrutinized and was so obvious in the middle of the court. We're not talking about a judgment call here. It's a rule of the game.
Kind of like a helmet-to-helmet hit in the NFL.
Well, I mean, even that you can say, there's physics involved in this. But there's no physics involved in this. The guy went behind his back, which was a stupid thing to do. He kicked the ball, and then he picked it up and dribbled it again. I mean, there could be no question about this. Now, Bruce Pearl continued on. Sometimes they're going to go your way. Sometimes they're not going to go your way. Sometimes Frank Sinatra did it his way. Are we going to give God less glory because we lost and only because we win? No, Bruce, you're not going to give God any fucking glory because God had nothing to do with the outcome of the game. I'm so sick of this, too. God would be up there saying, double dribble, double dribble, double dribble. I don't get it. And you know what it is? Bruce Pearl isn't going to go after the officials because he's one of the Lord's most efficient illegal recruiters. He looks like he's going to pop a goiter on the sideline every 10 minutes of the game. And I don't know. These kids taught us, I think, in many, many ways how to handle defeat. Well, that's easy for him to say with his $1 million contracts and his right to be able to continue illegally recruiting. And of course he's proud of the kids. He made it that far, and he's going to remain the coach. He's going to make millions of more dollars. But what about those kids who are not going to carry that to them in the next portion of their lives? The chance, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, to be number one at anything, except when you go to the bathroom. I think everybody achieves that. But besides, it's very difficult. And it's a shame because Auburn made a remarkable comeback in the game when it looked like all was cooked for them to run off, 12 straight points. I mean, it looked for sure that they were going to win the game. The other thing that bothers me about the aftermath of this game is that J.D. Collins, who's the NCAA's national coordinator of officiating, issued a statement explaining the foul on the three-point shot was called because the defender moved into the airborne shooter making contact while he was trying to find his landing spot. Well, let me tell you something. That was a foul, okay? I mean, again, 100%. Yeah, I mean, he dove forward, and the guy has to have a place to land. That is a legitimate call. But it's the last sentence of the article that bothers me. Collins declined to comment on the double dribble. And that's what we live in today.
That's being a pussy, isn't it?
It really is. And all of our politicians are pussies too. You know what it's like? It's like,
what's it like, man? Tell us.
Oh, I'll tell you. It's like in a debate between two parties that believe in completely diametrically opposed things. Okay? Hold on, I have to tell people to be quiet because I'm doing a program. Hold on.
Oh, boy.
There we go.
Stop talking, I don't want to talk anymore.
Exactly. My goodness.
Nice.
Yeah, we can hear you loudly on the air. This is a condenser microphone. Okay, sorry. Okay. Could you hear them?
Yes.
Of course.
Of course. Okay. I am. Just making sure because nobody believes me. Fuck no. But having two political parties on the stage and know what the issue they're debating is?
What's the issue?
Respecting the flag. No, you know.
Oh, that's really controversial.
How is that an issue? Yeah, you know, I was sitting in the bathroom and I looked, there was no toilet paper, and I said, you know what I could use right now is a flag.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, come on. There's all these things that matter in the world, and all these people taking these holier than thou stances on things that, of course, nobody could disagree with. You know, nobody's going to disagree with J.D. Collins that it was a foul on the 3-point shot. But that's what he wants to talk about, of course. He wants to respect the flag. Yeah, I don't get it.
You know what, Moo? That's not the worst thing that happened to somebody from Auburn over the weekend. Did you see that gymnast?
No.
There was a gymnast doing a routine, and she fell. She was doing a back somersault in the air, one of these floor exercises, and she landed on the back of her heels, and she basically did a Gary Baxter. Only the poor girl was just like lying there, like not lying there, sort of like half sitting up with her shins one way and her thighs the other way. It's all out on the internet if you want to see that. But that was the worst thing that happened to somebody from Auburn this weekend.
Oh my God, that's worse than what happened to Baxter the dog and Anchorman. Oh my God. Baxter's a bad name, I guess.
Or Ted Baxter, even.
Yeah. Pat Seagramson says, oh my God, he really is Bullwinkle. I don't know who he's referring to. Are you referring to me or him? I have no idea.
Again?
Yeah, Joe, you did that on an answering machine once for the phone. I'm sorry, I can't come to the phone right now. I'm drying my antlers. I just got out of the shower. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. No one uses answering machines anymore because nobody answers their phone.
That's true. Why should you? It's just, you know, I had another one, you know, you have a problem with your computer. And it's like, yes, you. And I hang up. You know, it's like.
Do a Boris Badenoff answering machine.
Oh, Boris Badenoff. Well, no, all I do is the Russian voice. I don't really do.
Chudzinski.
Yeah, the Rob Chudzinski voice. Okay. You have reached number of person not available to speak. I don't know where that voice came from, but it will never leave. It will never leave. So help me God. It's like whenever there is any Russian name that comes up, you know, it would be like Boris Spassky. Now it is your move, Mr. Fisher. You know, I don't.
That's more like that sounds a little more like Romanian. I did not go blah blah blah.
No, that's more Count Dracula.
Actually, where the voice comes from, it's I had a Russian massage therapist, okay? And he was this barrel-chested Russian guy. He would break your spine. His name was...
Strip mall in Orlando?
No. Yeah, he yanked Robert Kraft's dick right off his body. It was awesome. Can't find dick now. Big problem. His name was Lev Flexstein.
I give you anal fisting you really like.
I will tell you the ultimate Lev Flexstein story because he was a lovely man, really a great guy.
How nice was he?
No, he was really just a friendly, good-hearted guy. And one day he says to me, Mark, you come out after your massage. I want to show you something. So I go, okay, you know. So he walks me out to his car and he opens the trunk and there's a blanket. He opens the blanket and there's an Uzi in the trunk of his car.
Yes.
I'm going, Lev, what are you doing driving around with an Uzi? This is a true story. And he looks at me, he goes, you are a friend of mine. I trust you. Anybody ever give you problem, you tell me. So we're not in Russia. It doesn't work that way. He's like, you know, yeah, this guy, my neighbor, pissed me off. I will kill him and shoot him with Uzi. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'll tell you, and it's because of Roxanne's presence on the show, the ultimate ridiculous Leb Fleckstein story. He would talk to his customers in Flint, Michigan, in order to improve his English. And I apologize in advance for this story, but it was such a ridiculous story. I'll have to, and you know now what kind of guy Leb was. So Leb starts talking to me about politics. He's obviously been talking to the people in Flint, and the people in Flint were basically racist. Okay, it was a very racially divided town, Flint, Michigan. A lot of it had to do with the General Motors thing, the working class people who lived there, and it was just a, the inner city was 80% African American, but the suburbs were like 100% white. It was just a divided community. Leb says to me, "Big problem, this food stamp thing. I think it is because of the niggers." Honest to God. I'm laying there getting massage, and it's like, "What did you just say?" I said, "No." I said, "That's not acceptable." And I had to explain to him why that word was not acceptable. So he was a really good-hearted guy, but he was learning language from the wrong people. Now, the other thing that he would do is he would deny he was Jewish. He lived in a part of Grand Blanc, Michigan, in a neighborhood that was all non-Jewish, and he was afraid that people would hold it against him. So he would put up mammoth.
You know what they did to Jews in Russia, though, right?
Yes.
They went to the really bad gulags.
Yeah, I mean, not a good thing to be, but no, but he didn't want his neighbors to know, so he put up the most obvious Christmas decorations in the world, okay? And, I mean, so conspicuous that nobody would doubt this guy is a believer, right? So one day at Hanukkah time, which coincided with Christmas time, I come up to his house, and I stand outside of his house in the neighborhood singing the Israeli national anthem out loud. I've never seen that man move so fast. "What are you doing? Why are you singing this?" And I start singing every Jewish now. Ha tikva panima. All right, that's the national anthem of Israel. And that loud. Lights were going on, and the neighbors around the house, they all ran into their bedrooms to make sure their wallets were still there. Leb said, he drags me in the door, "You must never, never do this. Never, never sing that song again." So that's where the voice comes from. I don't know what significance was. Yeah, I'm just telling a story. And I noticed that Roxanne did not find that a very enlightening story.
I like the Uzi story better.
I figured as much. But who do you think he was going to shoot with the Uzi?
Well, that's pretty clear.
He didn't mean it.
Any customer that didn't pay promptly, I think, was probably going to get that.
I mean, N-bombs in Flint were just as common as water. I mean, it really was that kind of a town. He didn't know he was saying anything wrong. I had to sit down and tell him, "No, man, you can't say that shit." Yeah, really weird. And anyway,
Brian's gone.
Yeah, well,
I think his Ram went.
Yeah, his favorite group was Ram Jam.
Whoa.
Which he couldn't do. 21 minutes past the hour of 6 on an utterly boring Boohead radio show. But from missed calls in basketball games to Rick Manning.
Oh, no. What's he done?
No, it's not what he's done. I, took it upon myself to watch the Indians game. And look, to be very honest with you, great pitching, no hitting. All right.
Yeah.
This is going to be the story of the whole season for as long as the pitching staff stays healthy. Bieber looked great. And I'll tell you, Bauer looks really great, and Clevenger looks really great. You know, they got some.
Just to interrupt for a minute, what did you think of him being pulled in the 7th inning of his no-hitter? Do you think that was the right thing to do?
Yeah, because the only chance the team has is if their pitching staff stays healthy, because they got nobody who can hit the baseball. I mean, they're not going to keep getting bases loaded walks. You know what I mean? It's
after RBIs are bases loaded walks, I think.
I know, and it's hard to watch. Get excited about, ooh, who's on deck? Jake Bowers. Ah, fuck. You know, and the announcers are great, Matt Underwood and Rick Manning, and I swear to God, they were relieved when Stamets finally got his first big league hit.
Yeah.
And the only reason the ball was a hit was because the outfielders misplayed him to go the other way. That ball hung up in the air forever, and nobody got to it because they were just, one guy was hugging the left field line and the other guy was playing in right center, and he had a high sky high fly ball and it fell. You know, other than that, Eric Stamets hasn't come close to getting a hit. But it was funny because, you know, they had to authenticate the ball. And, you know, it was funny, the ball boy, when they gave him the ball and they gave him instructions, you got to bring it down there to this guy to get it authenticated. And he's like, why is this such a fucking big deal? It's only going to happen once. Never going to get another hit ever again.
Yeah. You want hell to freeze over now or what?
God damn. It's boring to watch. I mean, it's great to watch from the pitching perspective, the craft of the pitching, but the thing that I walked away with is the Indians are at 6-3, and there are going to be people who say, well, Mr. Moohead, you're going to eat your words about the Indians? It's like, no.
Check the opposition first. I mean, they played Toronto. And
Toronto, that's the worst fucking team. Actually, I mean, Toronto has less hitting than the Indians. I don't know how this happened. But, I mean, when you're sitting there waiting for Justin Smoke to come back around and hit again, it's a long 9 innings, folks. And they don't field well. Their infielders throw the ball in the dirt. Their catcher was throwing the ball all over the infield and outfield. God only knows. I mean, Ramirez scored on one. I don't know where the catcher was aiming it. I mean, it was bizarre. It just went, you know, it went through 2 guys to make it to the outfield. I don't know. But Rick Manning said it.
What did he say?
Oh my God. He said, you know, this is why fewer people are watching baseball. Didn't you hear his rant?
No, I only pay for Tom Hamilton, so I lay in bed with them on. If I fall asleep, it's great, which I usually do.
Good.
I don't pay for TV.
Hammy's call would go like, and the pitch to Santana for Biagini. He closes his eyes and swings as hard as he can, and there it goes. Yeah.
That's pretty much what Hamilton, he just spends the whole time moaning about how awful the schedule is because they have to play in cold weather. And he literally whinges about that for the entire 3 hours of the game.
Well,
it's like, what are we doing here in the 40-degree weather?
Yeah, well, why
I don't know. What are we doing here?
Well, but I mean, that's 30 in Detroit. That's why we're playing in the warmer spot.
Yeah, the guy, yeah, you go, why should I be inconvenienced? Damn it. But the whole thing is an inconvenience. Rick Manning goes out and starts yelling, not really, I mean, really raised up kind of his voice and said, this is exactly the problem why people aren't watching baseball. Wow, he goes, look at the Toronto Blue Jays. He goes, they don't hit, they don't field, they don't get men on base, and then when they do get men on base, they don't drive them in. There's no excitement at all. And I'm going, well, you could be describing the Indians too there, Rick.
Pot, kettle, pot.
Unbelievable.
Rick, that sounds like you were talking about yourself, for God's sakes, because you and Matt aren't exactly, you know, high-stepping fools out there. Well, you guys they can put a few people to sleep, you know, watching them on TV.
The mid-'70s Indians could not hit to save their fucking lives. We're all fucking remember that. You know, Gaylord Perry used to win all these games 2-0, 2-1. You know, and everybody else would give up 7 runs when they pitched, like Rick Dunning.
And you know, Pat Seagramson saying it could be worse. It could be the Reds, the worst team in baseball. Do you know that the Reds, through 16 games, have scored 28 runs? I mean, that's really hard. That's hard to fathom, folks.
They had more hits in that fight against the Pirates the other day than they've had hits on the field. Gee,
I know.
That looked like a full-scale riot out there. Twig was ready to take on anybody.
It's not 16 games, obviously, but they've only scored 28 runs in the season. And the thing was, the only time they'd scored any quantity, they lost 6-5. They lost 4-3. They find a way to lose. They're absolutely horrible, you know. But yeah, they have nothing. But and Rick Manning brought that up. He goes, "How are you going to get people into the stands if you've only scored 28 runs all year?" I mean, he was really going off on it. And what you realize is that the stupid money, as it was referred to, that's being spent on people, and the big market teams that have no limit as to what they spend, it is leaving, it's cratering the sport.
Correct.
And you know something? We're looking at a 19-win Cleveland Cavalier team that's really awful, okay? And I try not to pay any attention to it.
Yep.
But the truth of the matter is that even if you watch the Cavaliers, as bad as they are, you might watch Colin Sexton score 27, 28 points. You might see Larry Nance Jr. get a really good dunk. There might be a few moments of the game where the Cavaliers come back and run off a bunch of points in a row, where Jordan Clarkson comes off the bench and scores a bunch of points, where they get hot for a period of time, but they can't sustain it or whatever. But there's actually moments of the game that are exciting and interesting to watch.
Correct. I mean, pro basketball is just a much better game. I mean, college basketball, there's way too many clanking of these 3 points and poor play. But the pro game is much better.
But bad baseball.
Bad baseball is horrible. It's like that Saturday Night Live guy. Remember the Dan Aykroyd doing, "This is bad theater."
Yeah, Lawrence Pitts Garnell. Yeah.
Pitts Garnell. Another episode of Bad Baseball.
This was really bad. Yeah, and that's really what it is. It's slow. It's plodding. There's no excitement. There's no offense. And it makes it worse when they're playing in cold weather. The ball doesn't carry. It's the worst possible combination of things that you could imagine. And there's nothing they can do about it. And the pitchers, if they stay healthy, I mean, you start realizing how lucky you are. A guy like Clevenger, who had arm problems and went through Tommy John surgery, and now he's throwing 96, you know, he's throwing BBs up there, but he also has a wicked hook, you know, and he's throwing sliders. And then you see, Trevor Bauer doing the same thing, throwing 95, but also throwing curveballs off speed pitches. You're seeing 20-mile-an-hour differences between the breaking ball and the fastball with these pitchers. And a lot of that, striking out hitters because of the penchant for power. Everybody wants the power hitters in baseball, but when it's 38 degrees outside, the ball doesn't carry, so there are no home runs. And what you're laid bare with is a game that's void of offense. And so it would make sense that the Indians would get off to a decent start based on playing in this kind of cold weather, because they're not going to hit the ball no matter what weather they're playing in. The Indians strike out more than any team, I think, in the league right now. I mean, it's crazy.
It's shocking. Toronto had like about 55 or 60 strikeouts in those 4 games, but the Indians were right behind them.
There was a guy that Rick Manning was ripping on the Blue Jays, and he was saying, yeah, he played last year, and, he hit, 17 home runs, but he struck out 200 times. He goes, you can't strike out 200 times and hit 17 home runs. You got to hit 40 home runs if you're going to strike out 200 times. I mean, he was like,
oh, wow,
beside himself. And I'm sitting there nodding my head saying, and of course, Underwood's just sitting there saying, I want to keep my job, Rick, so I can't say anything. Did I miss something? Fucking Matt Underwood. Yeah. But the Blue Jays are horrible, and the Reds are horrible, and there's a lot of teams that are horrible. And one team that's not horrible is the Tampa Bay Rays, who are now 7-3, maybe 8-3 at this point. And Yandy Diaz went 2 for 5 again today and is hitting .316. Just
Yandy.
I just want to remind the Indians front office that the reason you have no offense is because you give it away for nothing.
And you get rid of all your good Hispanic players for 3 magic beans. Yeah.
They're not even magic. Yeah.
Yeah, they got rid of all their players whose first name started with Y. Jan Gomes, Yandy Diaz, Yonder Alonso.
That's true.
What the hell?
Yonder was meant to play someplace far away. Just play.
That's yonder.
Way over there. Way
yeah,
over.
You're out yonder.
But Francisco, I mean, he is not even hardly playing. He's hitting a 231. He's not even hardly playing.
He probably has no soul left, though. I mean, how could he possibly have a soul?
I don't know. But it really, it's to me just it's a shame. Who has 3 hours to waste this way?
Oh God! I have the top tip: just put it on the radio, lie in bed, and if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. And then when something happens, Tom Hamilton will yell, and you'll wake up.
Yeah, well,
it is. That's and you literally miss 4 or 5 innings.
I mean, if you're looking at per minute watched, per 15 minutes watched, the excitement factor, it's absent. And I know a lot of, I got a comment from a guy who watched the show for the first time who said he was never going to watch again. And that was when I pulled my penis out in the middle of the program. Did you miss that?
We all missed that.
Yeah. Well, no, he was obviously upset that I was unduly negative about the Cleveland Indians. And the fact of the matter is, all you have to do is, the weather warmed up, so a few more people came out on Sunday, but nobody's really interested in watching this team play because no matter how good the starting pitching is, in the end, by the end of the year, after 162 games, Corey Kluber's arm is going to look like chopped steak. And, and I'm not all that confident that Clevenger is going to be able to pitch nonstop during the course of the year. And they say, pitching has the advantage. It's like, no, not with a juiced ball. And not if you hang one breaking pitch and Judge hits it 450 feet, and somebody's got an $800 million payroll. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But this is what causes cratering in a sport. And there are a lot of bad teams in the major leagues. And there are a lot of players who are, they just move from team to team. Whichever team is losing, that's where they wind up. It's really a strange thing. So, yes, I'm glad the Indians are 6-3, but I'm not putting any real stock in it because once they start playing teams that can hit the baseball, I mean, let's be honest, the Detroit Tigers are winning and the Minnesota Twins are winning. And it's not like Cleveland's perched by itself at the top. There are a lot of teams losing this year. So, and one more article, so Von Miller says that Odell Beckham now is basically having multiple orgasms being in Cleveland. And so this is what we get basically, It's like we're reduced to, is he happy or isn't he happy?
Well, it appears the media is treating him like, well, they treated LeBron and still treat LeBron, like he's the replacement for that, so we have to know his moods and his dreams and his wishes and his fantasies and all that shit.
Well, now, Von Miller is saying, well, at first Odell was upset, but now he's really happy to be in Cleveland. But this is the kind of quote that makes me shake my big cow head. Exactly. Immediately after that, he was excited about this new opportunity. This is Von Miller speaking. You saw all of his teammates on Twitter and Instagram. They love him as well. They were excited to have him. The whole city of Cleveland is excited to have him. And then this new next comment that is not new, that if I hear it one more time, I'm going to shoot somebody in the head with an Uzi, with Leb's Uzi. He's the new LeBron there.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, it's like, would you please? Odell Beckham Jr. is not the new LeBron. Odell Beckham Jr. never stepped foot in Cleveland in his fucking life. And LeBron James grew up in Northeast Ohio. Fuck you for even suggesting that.
I doubt he even knows where Akron is.
Yeah, I know. And not only
where should he know?
He only knows where the hookers walk. That would be the only thing he'd know about Cleveland. Give me a break. But then there's the Baker Mayfield thing. He's the new LeBron. And it's like, no. You know, it's like, why can't these people just be themselves? He is not the new anything. He is the real Baker Mayfield. Okay?
Yeah.
You're going to be talking about Baker Mayfield quite independently of LeBron James. And, you know, it's not about star power in Cleveland. It's about winning. And LeBron James won a championship. Well, and that's what we want Baker Mayfield to do, too, is to win a Super Bowl. That's what it's about.
Part of the problem was that half the economy of Cleveland was based on LeBron James. You know, I mean, so he was such a dominant figure that, you know, to have anybody like Baker Mayfield or Beckham come into town, you know, he's taking some of that limelight away that is imaginary in these people's eyes. So,
former Cleveland Cavaliers guard Kyle Korver addresses white privilege on the Players Tribune broadcast, right? Kyle Korver, and he's a great guy. Kyle Korver is a wonderful shooter, and he's a good family man, just a good person. And I know what he's trying to do, but, you know, when you played in Utah all those years, I mean, I just wonder how many African Americans there are out there going, hey, man, we really appreciate it, but sit your white ass down. You know, it's like, we don't need your help. You know, it's nice of you, Kyle, but white privilege, it's a way of life in Utah. What can I tell you? You can have as many wives as you want, as long as none of them are black. I don't understand. For the life of me, I don't need Kyle Korver to tell me there's white privilege in the world. I don't know. Play basketball. Oh, one other thing about the Indians and Carlos Santana. Here's Rick Manning's analysis of Carlos Santana. And if I hear this one more time, I'm going to grab the Uzi again. So help me God. These insights the broadcasters come up with and repeat year after year. I'm telling you, if Carlos would just hit the ball to all fields, I was like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. I mean, the same thing with Jason Kipnis. Yeah. Same thing with Jose Ramirez. I mean, it's like they're all trying to pull the ball. And it's like not a single one of them will say the truth. Here's the truth. If they hit the ball to the opposite field and hit doubles, they don't get half the money as if they were hitting home runs, right?
Pretty much.
I mean, Jose Ramirez plays for the Indians, but, you know, he's playing for his next contract. I hope everybody is aware of this.
Yeah, they won't be in Cleveland either because Dolans won't pay him any money.
And the same thing with Francisco Lindor. Yep. You know, they had to change the statistical basis of baseball for the, you know, for the stat geeks to take batting average out of the equation so they can come up with these slugging statistics, right? Which take how many bases you get per swing and all of that crap. Everything now is built around power, including how much money people get paid. And you could be the best fielding shortstop in the game, but only hit like 12 home runs in a year. He ain't going to get paid shit compared to a guy like Edwin Encarnacion, who really couldn't play anywhere in the field and hit 40 home runs a year. Hold on a sec.
Dogs agree with you.
Hush, hush, keep it down now. Voices carry.
God damn.
Or in this case, barks carry.
Yeah, I know.
Bark hard, little doggies.
Where is that Uzi? I could help you out with dog. At any rate, you know, if he hit to all fields, you know, I remember when Carlos Santana was in AAA and AA, and he was a 300 hitter in the minor leagues. Okay.
I remember when he was at Woodstock But anyway, that's another story.
Hell of a solo, that drummer. Man.
Yeah.
Soul Sacrifice, hell of a song.
Yeah, he had a Black Magic Woman, as I recall. I don't know. Yeah. I remember when Jim Thome was a 300 hitter. Yeah, and then he turned into a steroid-induced freak, and then pretty well he shot up so much he could hit him out the opposite way too. But baseball players who are not pumped up with juice are not going to hit very many home runs to the opposite field unless they have inordinate bat speed. And they play these ridiculous shifts. And of course he could do better if he just went with the pitch. Of course, if he hit to all fields. But the real thing is the coaches can't talk the players into doing it because it's committing financial suicide. Hey, it's contract time. I hit 310 this year. Yeah, fuck you. You only hit 17 home runs. To hell with you. But I walked 100 times. Ah, fuck you. We wanted 40 home runs from you, asshole. We're not paying you. And then all the owners collude and they don't pay them either. The end.
Correct.
That's why it happens.
You know how I knew this was going to be a really dull, boring season? Was in the very first game, very first inning. The shift is on Jose Ramirez. He tries to bunt single. Keep it on base.
I know.
First inning. I thought, I'm not Park hard.
The 2019 Cleveland Indians. Enjoy them while you can.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be the slogan. That should be the slogan this year.
They ain't going to be here long.
Nope.
Dear.
Yeah, I just have to stop doing the program because it's amazing. There are these things called crates that you keep dogs in. And when you have workers at the house, you say, you keep the dogs in the crate. That's usually how it works, but not here. Not now. But hey, to suggest that I'm unhappy about it, nah.
There's only 4 people watching this anyway now. Just us. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Just I don't want to give anyone the idea that I'm displeased. Oh, God. So let's go to the chat room and see what the 4 people are saying. Brian Hallman says Mormons have a whole thing about black people. I wouldn't know. I've never been in Utah in my life. Honest to God. Never been there. And then Roxanne is saying, until the 70s, I thought all black people were going to hell. Is that true?
That was my understanding, but Brian has corrected me.
Oh, wow. Well, this is all kind of conspiracy theory oriented. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I don't know. All black people were going to hell. God, they'd have some great jazz clubs down there.
Like, let's go to this club. It's hot.
Literally hot. Like, turn the air conditioning on.
That solo was really lit.
Michael Proud is in the chat room saying they were probably referring to OBJ being a diva like LeBron, not that he's the new king. Yeah, LeBron is. Look, I'll take all the. If just walk the walk, you can talk the talk if you walk the walk. And LeBron won the championship, so he can be a whiny diva if he wants to. It's all good with me, you know. Plenty of Mormons here in Arizona, and that's as close to hell as you can get. Okay, I'm gonna get barked down by a bunch of dogs. Pat Seagram's saying, I think people get mixed up with most star athlete in Cleveland and LeBron. Well, I mean, I think LeBron symbolized Cleveland, and now there has to be, you know, they act as if there has to be a new, you know, I don't remember people saying LeBron is the new Jim Brown.
No.
Oh, God. I've invoked his name.
Jim, do the girl from Ipanema.
Jim fucking Brown. You see, I looks at it this way. Hi, my name is Jim fucking Brown. And the reason I call myself Jim fucking Brown is because that be my fucking name. Colin Sexton be average, just average. Yeah, I mean, I remember LeBron James walking over to Jim Brown when Jim Brown was on the sidelines of the, on the court side at the Cavaliers game. And the one thing I will say is that the two of them, they did have one thing in common. They were physically superior to the people they were playing against.
Oh, totally.
In their time, okay?
Yeah.
And dominant in the same kind of a physical way. They were freaks, physical freaks of nature. And that was the similarity I saw. But I don't remember anyone, but we have this athlete love thing now, man. Real serious athlete love. And, somebody's going to have to be the next Bill Belichick, you see, or the next Tom Brady, or the next, and it doesn't work that way. You can be waiting, I'm still waiting for the next Barack Obama,
Wow.
I am. And I'm not awaiting the next Donald Trump. Once is quite enough. Thank you very much. I'm not going to get in trouble, though. Brittany's in the chat room, too. That's kind of exciting. She makes as much noise in there as she does in the studio. Do you know that she actually made a comment that I saw?
What was that? I missed that.
It was in the chat room. No, it wasn't. It was actually on a comment of the program, and it explained everything. The person said, "Why is Brittany on the show?" And no, I mean, that was a comment, a question directed.
I remember seeing it. I think she explained it
to Mr. Moohead. And no, I jumped in and I said, because everybody is welcome on the program. I mean, this panel is not a by invite only thing. I put it right up, and if you visit the show, you can click on the link and you can be part of the show. People jump in and out, and and really, I don't care if somebody wants to hang out. That's what a hangout is, I suppose. But she commented and she said, "I'm using it as experience for my own broadcasts."
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
And so I read it and went, yeah.
She's using this for the how not to, or what?
I don't know. It's like, that's like Leb and the N-bombs. It's like, don't use this as an example of how to do a broadcast,
Looks at this and says, splendid.
No, it would be like this. Welcome to Texas Cooking. I'm Brittany, and this is my big dick co-host, Derek Frisbee. I go, no.
He's the one who looks like Elvis Costello, yes.
I don't know about Allison, but it's killing me.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
His name is true.
Do not use this as an example.
Maybe how not to, but
yeah, this is not a textbook broadcast, but
no.
You're going to study this in Media Studies 200, are you?
I could just see, and coming up on our cooking program, and then these horrible things. But before we get into the proper way to make coleslaw, I just want to tell everyone to go fuck themselves. It's like, it's like, wow, this sounds kind of like Moohead Radio doing a cooking program.
I mean, this show used to be so vulgar that you couldn't go by without an ass rape reference like once every 20 minutes.
It's really a shame, because there just aren't as many good ass rape references available. I mean, there was a time when I was saying, man, Auburn was ass raped in that game, but no.
Correct.
Not doing that anymore. No.
And now, after this gravy recipe, we're going to alienate Delaware. Okay.
Hey, and Stephen Rose is joining us on the cooking show. Why don't you shoot that gravy all over? Like, I can't even. I can't.
I can't do that out loud.
I can't do this. God,
the biscuits are over here. I don't know where you were.
That must be a milk-based gravy or something. I don't know what the hell.
Hi, Jim. What the hell?
Meanwhile, Harry has no idea what we're talking about here.
We have good jazz clubs in hell. Welcome, Jim.
That's right. We got Davis. We got Coltrane. We got Charlie Parker. You name it.
And you know, in heaven you got Pat Boone. It's like, send me to hell, would you, God, please?
Jeez.
I'm gonna be rocking down there.
Pat Boone or Jerry Lee Lewis? Boy, I can't decide.
No, and Michael Jackson. You know, it's like, I'm going to hell, man. It's entertaining. Yeah, Ron Shane is saying, I'm waiting for the Browns to become the Golden State Warriors of football. Aren't we all?
Huh.
I know that I would never get bored of that, but I know country would. But yeah. Hey, it's Jim Hammer. Hammer time.
Yeah, Jim.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, Mr. Relaxation. What's up?
Hey, I'm still, this is the beginning of week 3 of my hip replacement, so I am definitely feeling here.
I
So
didn't know.
Yeah, that's why it was so much fun last time I was on. I was still on pain meds.
Oh, really?
I'm not now, but darn
That would
it.
explain your lucidity.
But yes, I am. I'm actually much more ambulatory as of this week. So,
well, that's great. Now, the one thing I can tell you about hip replacements is that it didn't work for Pat Boone because he never could be hip. The second thing. Well, I was tying it into the previous conversation. The second thing is that it's easier than knees. You're going to find that because there's less moving parts that you've gotten through the hardest part of it. From what I understand, really in 2 months' time, you're going to be able to pretty well do anything you want to do. That's my friends who've had the procedure.
This is actually my second one. I had one done 9 years ago on the other side. So now I'm just too hip.
Yeah, I guessed. No, you're tragically hip.
Too hip for the room.
Yeah. So I didn't realize, but I'm glad you came through the procedure okay. And you and I have a similarity, Jim. I remember when I went in for my knee replacement, and they had to give me the pain medication, or actually the anesthesia, and it was really, and you're really, they put one of those gowns on you so your ass is hanging out. It's really, not very flattering. And I thought they were going to give me a basic injection. Instead, it was like 2 Eskimos with harpoons that were loaded with the sedative. And it was just wrong. I said, this is totally politically incorrect. I mean, my insurance is really good, and I should at least have an IV, for God's sakes, not a goddamn Nanook throwing a fucking spear at me. It's just wrong. But they put me out, man. I was out for a long time after that procedure.
How long were you out?
Oh, no. I mean, that was not like, I've been put under before for arthroscopies in my knee, but that knee replacement, they thought it was going to take an hour, and it took 2 hours because, the first spear didn't penetrate me. It took a long time to do the procedure. And so I think they had to load up the anesthesia. And when I came out, man, I had all of the symptoms of post-anesthesia, which, like hiccups. I couldn't stop hiccuping. It was really weird. But yeah, I was under for a long time. How long did your procedure take, Jim?
I think a couple hours from what I understand. I was kind of out of it as well. They had me there at 5 o'clock in the morning. They wheeled me back to the operating room somewhere like 7:45, and then I woke up probably before noon. I mean, it was like I said, 2 weeks ago this past Friday. So, and they actually kicked me out of the hospital the next day. I was doing that good. Yeah, that's how well this one went. Went through Ohio State, and it just went went much better. The last time I had some serious issues like you had, based on anesthesia as well. I had some issues there. And why is that doing this? Anyway, there we go. But yeah, I had some issues the last time I did it and just was not well at all this time. They gave me a few drugs in the hospital, but that was about it. And they sent me home the next day, and I was doing pretty good. And right now I'm walking. Right now, most of what it is walking. It's just building the muscles back from where they tore everything out of there. So, but yep. So doing good though. It's I'm not like ready to go dancing or anything, or so.
Well, it was funny when the thing I hate about anesthesia is when they wake you up. It's like the nurse saying, Mark, wake up, Mark, and it's like this distant voice and you're being awakened. So they said to me, Mark, wake up. And I said, shit, where be the great jazz clubs down here?
I'm just glad they didn't say, come to the light.
Yeah, I hate that. Mark, wake up. It's like, oh.
They could have said it's time for your sleeping pill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or yeah. Hey, you're in hell now, Jew boy.
Well, I mentioned that poor girl from Auburn ain't feeling too good right now. I should hope she's having surgery.
Oh, I know that. I don't want to look that. I'm not going to look at that on the internet. That would be me showing up in hell after I die. Open my eyes. Holy shit! It's Richard Roundtree. I loved you in Shaft. This is wrong on so many levels. I apologize to the viewing audience. There just wasn't really a whole hell of a lot to talk about today. There's a game we have to predict. So we're going to give the panel members their opportunity. You got a 50-50 chance in this. Who's going to win, A&M or Virginia?
No, you mean Tech or Virginia? Texas Tech or Virginia? There's no A&M in there.
God, my apologies to Texas Tech. My God.
Well, I see where you're leaning towards now.
Texas Alphabet School, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, my God. I mean, nobody gets a diploma from there anyway. So what difference does it make? They both end up with the same reading level. Let's move it along.
Yeah,
Okay.
If Lori Laughlin isn't spending money to get their kid in there, obviously it's not a good school. So
There you go.
Bronk, who's going to win tonight? If you say A&M, I'm going to get really fucking pissed off.
I think the Virginia Cavaliers are going to win. There's going to be another riot in Charlottesville tonight.
Ooh.
Bad timing for that. Jim.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Texas Tech. They just seem to be that lockdown defense. They're both lockdown defenses. What I am predicting, though, is an extraordinarily boring game.
Yeah.
I got the over on that. So
yeah. Before I go to Rick on this, I have to say the same thing. These are not high-scoring, high-flying teams. These are teams that are well-coached, disciplined teams, but kind of bloodless in a way. And, if somebody said, well, how did Tech beat Michigan State? And the answer was they scored 71 points. That's really the reason why they won. Because you hit the magic 7-0, you're going to win the game. Because it's all defensively inspired. It's half-court basketball. Which doesn't bother me in and of itself. It's just that it's a completely different animal than what we have in the NBA. And so, Rick, who do you think is going to win?
Well, I had Virginia and Michigan State in the final, so I was half right, and I picked Virginia to win it all because I think they're going to be the first team to hit 60. It'll be like 61-57, and like I said the last time, Virginia wins and Ralph Sampson becomes relevant again.
Yeah, I hope Tech wins, and it's no real rap against Virginia. I don't Virginia's won a bunch of close games, which is probably the way they win games because they don't pull away from anybody. But they didn't deserve to win the game against Auburn. And that's my sole reason. It's nothing against the kids who are playing. The kids didn't make the bad call. It isn't a matter of me hating on Virginia. But I would like to see a school like Tech that has absolutely no history in the NCAA finals in basketball win a championship. It may be their last, their first and only. So many teams have discovered that. You know, ask Indiana State. You know, it's like that happens once in a freaking lifetime, you know. So
well, there's a lot at stake in this game. You got to remember that not only is there a national championship, but there's a trip to the White House, and you may be offered Burger King and Pizza Hut and a few McDonald's cheeseburgers, you know, and a big trip to the White House. So there's a lot going on.
You're not allowed to use the word steak, though, on Moohead Radio. I'm sorry. Regardless of spelling, you know, we have to be politically correct.
You almost crossed the line with Arby's, probably too. So,
yeah. And you never roast the host in this because it's politically incorrect, folks. You know, this is
Long John Silver's is your best bet. So
exactly right. You know, yeah. But even then, I had Fish complain when I plugged. You know, they said that I was promoting battering Fish.
Wow.
Look, I mean, was
this doing it in public or was it domestic battering? Okay.
I don't know. It was beer battering, and that sounded like there was alcohol involved, and that's even worse.
Yes.
I don't know. Well, but I digress. We're done. It's after 7 o'clock.
It's like Leonard Pinch-Garnell, bad Moohead, isn't it?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. It's proof that not only Seinfeld could be about nothing. Okay, this was a show about nothing today.
This is like the worst show ever.
No, there were shows that were clearly worse than that. You know, when I accidentally showed butt crack, there were lots of worse programs than this one. So. Yeah, and I'll think of what I can do next time to make it worse. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Hopefully, we'll have more of our panel members back. Thank you, Jim, for stopping by, and I hope that how's the incision look, by the way?
I'm afraid to look at it. I guess my wife says it looks pretty good, but I've been trying to lose weight anyway, and I figure once I think I really want to eat something, I'll just look at it and kind of, you know. But yeah, I guess it's doing well.
Well, you know what you could do to lose weight, and it's something that I'm not sure that that it would work for you. But if you do overstretching on that side, some of your vital organs might fall out through the incision, and you could lose this tremendous amount of weight that way. It's like, oh my God, my stomach's on the ground. Believe me, I don't talk much about losing weight these days. I've been plateaued. I've actually gained some weight since the knee replacement surgery. You do not lose weight when you're trying to get off of a knee replacement surgery. That's something I learned, and boy, it's a challenge. But hey, I know you're up to it, Jim, and you're going to continue officiating games, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing the adult national championships. They're going to be actually here in Columbus for volleyball Memorial Day weekend. So I plan on being there for that for the adult nationals. And maybe something before then. We'll see what happens. But
yeah, and everybody, tomorrow, if you're around at 10 o'clock in the morning, Moohead Radio is going to be doing a dedicated podcast to the career of Bill Livingston, who's retired for the Plain Dealer. Bill's celebrated his 70th birthday, and he's a long term. Started out in Dallas, Fort Worth area, but he'd been in Cleveland a long time. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be doing a kind of a tribute podcast to him and talking to him about the changes that he's seen not only in the newspaper industry, but in Cleveland sports, and about sports, the attitudes of fans in general. It would be very interesting to see that through the eyes of a guy who's been reporting journalistically for as many decades as Bill Livingston. And, you know, the fact is that I don't have a bad relationship with the members of the press. Well, not all of them, some of them. like that queer Joe Varden. No, I'm sorry. I should
not going to be
stop.
covering his retirement, are you?
No.
Dish the dirt on Mary Kay tomorrow, then.
Well, no, Mary Kay is just irrelevant. I am irreverent. She is irrelevant. Okay. But no, actually, of all of the sports journalists who wrote, Bill Livingston is the one who wrote more interesting articles, less predictable articles. And in all truth, I wouldn't even go after Joe or Mary Kay or anything for to interview the program, because I'm going to get company line shit. And that's not the way Bill Livingston is. And he's going to tell me what he thinks about stuff, and we may not agree on everything. Oh, wow. But that's the fun of it. The fun of it is a guy who's willing to speak his mind. And unfortunately, it's become an enterprise to support the home team, and or it's used as, you know, like what was the guy's name who's now with reporting on the Warriors? He was with the Cavs for 1 year.
Oh, Brian Windhorst.
No, Windy went national.
Oh, the Cannon Man.
No. Pat's gone with ESPN, gone national too. He was the African American guy who was only in Cleveland for a year, and he moved along to Golden State. Can't remember his name now. And I talked to a bunch of the beat reporters, and they said he was the biggest self-promoter of all time. So he got what he wanted. He ended up in Golden State, you know. But, you know, it is a career of advancement. And I'll say this about Brian Windhorst, who a lot of people in Cleveland trash Brian Windhorst. And I think that's really wrong, because Brian Windhorst, you know, he did something that a lot of people couldn't do. And that is not only go from small market to national, but to do it without the incredible debonair good looks, but based upon actual reporting skills. I give Brian Windhorst a tremendous amount of credit, and he's overcome a lot in his life, believe me.
Especially looking so much like Fat Jonah Hill. I mean, it's always going to...
Yeah, well, let me tell you.
But I will say, I made a lot of fun of him when LeBron signed back in Cleveland. I'm sure he was so happy to finally get out of Cleveland and go to Miami. And then it was like, I'm sure that day he was at the bar going, I have to move back to Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing with Brian is that Brian still keeps in touch with a lot of people in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio media. He hasn't lost track of his roots. But I think it's a success story when somebody moves up in the world. And I never understood why somebody would berate somebody for doing that. And Windhorst tells the truth. And we've had Brian on the program before. He does. And I told him the very same thing. It's like, you know, this is... you know, you're going to hear shit from people, but, you know, the fact of the matter is that moving up in the world is great. And something I'm sure that, you know, I'll be talking with Bill tomorrow about is about how the newspaper business has changed. And, you know, there was a day where people would go beyond retirement age. Hal Lebowitz, if you remember Hal Lebowitz, he was, a big time Cleveland newspaper journalist guy that I'm sure Bill will talk about tomorrow. You know, they went on forever, but the industry's changed, and the people who own the newspaper, the content has changed, the expectations of what's expected from journalists has changed. It's taken on more of a, I can't even explain it, except there is no place. I wouldn't expect there to ever be a place for me in media, because I've made sure that the character that I play on this show would never be invited to anything, anywhere, under any circumstance whatsoever. But you know, to criticize the organizations, and I don't mean calling Dan Gilbert a little drunken Mick like I do. I'm not suggesting that that is the proper way to go about things, but at the same time, I think that there isn't enough dissent in journalism today, is what there should be.
Oh, there's none whatsoever. There's none whatsoever in local journalism. I mean, Cleveland had a long history of top journalists like Franklin Lewis and Russell Snyder, and you mentioned Lebowitz. I mean, there's been some great sports writers in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Brian has a new book coming out tomorrow. It's called LeBron Incorporated.
Really?
It's going to be released tomorrow. So
that's great. And I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is there are people who are like Scott Rabb, whose name rhymes with scab, and he's a big sack of shit. The end. All right. I don't like it when people are bombastic and sensationalistic just to make profits. I mean, this was the guy who said he wished, if you don't know who Scott Rabb is, he's the guy who wished that LeBron James would tear an ACL when he left Cleveland. And then when he came back, if you saw the Believe Land,
he was all over that.
Yeah, he's crying like crocodile tears, saying how great LeBron is after just years earlier saying he wanted him to tear out his ACL. You know, and so that he could write a new book about this. And, you know, I have problems with that kind of journalism completely. I mean, just remember, for all the criticisms that I levy on this program, some justifiably, some unjustifiably, I make no cent, no dollar off this damn thing whatsoever. And never wanted to, never did want to. I just wish there was more discussion about, you know, yeah, Indians fans are notoriously protective, all three of them. And and if you buy into the mid-sized market thing, I mean, you know, but the bottom line is, what's the good of playing company line when the Browns have been so lousy for so long, and now we're on the cusp of being really good? I mean, all those years of frustration have to paint a picture, and they will, in essence, change. You'll see the way that the halftime and post-game shows go this year compared to previous years when the team's terrible, because my message is going to be completely different, and I'm going to talk about the team instead of a make fun of, you know, assassination kind of approach. I'm going to talk about the Cleveland Browns constructively, of what they could do better, or how they've improved, and it will be a much more level-headed discussion rather than a just try to make you laugh kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with criticizing where the Cleveland Browns have come from since, you know, they came back in 1999. I don't revel in it, but the fact is I watched every game, and sometimes I wished I didn't have to. So there has to be a payout at some point for doing this shit. And finally we got some players. So, you know, the fact is that Mary Kay Cabbagehead was, you know, toting the company line pre-Sashi Brown and, you know, with the autistic guy, Lerner, and, you know, and she was just spouting off the company line all along. There's no credibility in that. I mean, the only reality there is that they're better now, and because they got better people, you know. And I don't mean playing quarterback. I mean the guy was making decisions on who's being drafted and the trades that they're making. We have a qualified person managing the team. And to me, the only thing I will say right now, and I'll end the show this way: you love Freddie Kitchens. You love that homespun kind of humor, that self-deprecating kind of thing. And we all love Sam Rutigliano when he came to Cleveland, and his sense of humor, that he would break up a press conference, a room full of journalists, into laughter when he would talk about things. But when the losing started, it got old real quick to these members of the press. And, you know, I love Sam Rutigliano because he's a great guy. That's why. He's a really good man. And when he was winning, he was a great coach. And when he was losing, he had Paul McDonald. What can I tell you? You know, some people, you know, you're not going to win with certain rosters. And that's what he got. And he got the fast boot out of Cleveland by the meddler Modell. And that's the bottom line. You're going to love Freddie Kitchens until we hit a stumbling block, which happens at some point with every team. And his little witticisms aren't going to sound as funny anymore, and people in the press are going to jump on him for it. Just remember what we were and what we are and what we're going to become, and keep it in balance. And there's no need to be negative about a positive thing, but there's no reason to be positive about a negative thing. Use your heads. That's it, everybody. I'm out of here until Friday. We'll see what happens between now and then. Jim, keep convalescing. Do well. Rick, glad to have you. Bronk, your antlers are wet. And Roxanne, thank you for putting up with a Russian N-bomb. Back again on Friday. And until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.
Ooh.